The Good Comrades of the Flying Ship, a Russian tale. There lived once upon a time in Russia a peasant and his wife, and they had 3 sons. 2 were clever, but the third was thought a fool. The elder brothers were forever telling him he had no wits, and he found himself always treated as if of no use whatsoever. One day they all heard that a writing had come from the Tsar, which said, "Whoever builds a ship that can fly, to him will I give my daughter, the Tsarevna, to wife." The elder brothers resolved to go and seek their fortune, and they begged a blessing of their parents. The mother got ready their things for the journey and gave them the best she had in the house to eat on the way. Then the fool began to beg them to send him off too. His mother told him he should not go. "Why shouldst thou go?" said his mother. "Dost thou think thou canst do what wiser men cannot?" But the fool was always singing the same refrain: "I think I can. I want to go." At length his mother saw she could do nothing with him, so she gave him a poor crust of black bread and sent him out. The fool went and went, and at last he met an old man. They greeted each other, and the old man asked, "Where art thou going?" "Look now," said the fool, "the Tsar has promised to give his daughter to him who shall make a flying ship." "And canst thou make such a ship?" "No, I cannot, but I'll get it made for me somewhere." "And where is that somewhere?" "God only knows." "Well, in that case, sit down here, rest and eat a bit. Share with me what thou hast in thy knapsack." "Nay, it is such stuff that I'm ashamed to share it with thee." "Nonsense, take it out. What God has given is quite good enough to be eaten." The fool undid his knapsack and could hardly believe his eyes. There, instead of the dry crust of brown bread, lay white rolls and divers savory meats, and he gave of it to the old man. So they ate together, and the old man said to the fool, "Go thou into the wood, straight up to the first tree. Strike the trunk with thine axe, then fall with thy face to the ground, and wait till thou art roused. Thou wilt see before thee a ship quite ready. Sit in it and fly, and whomsoever thou dost meet on the road, gather him up and give him a lift on his journey." So our fool blessed the old man, took leave of him, and went into the wood. He went up to the first tree and did exactly as he had been commanded. He struck the tree with his axe, fell with his face to the ground, and went to sleep. In a little while, something or other awoke him. The fool rose up and saw the ship quite ready beside him. Without loss of time, he got into it, and the ship flew up into the air. It flew, and look, there on the road below was a man lying with his ear to the earth. "Good day, uncle," cried the fool. "Good day. What art thou doing?" "I am listening to what is going on in the world." "Art thou traveling?" "Yea." "Then take a seat in the ship beside me. I'll give you a lift on thy journey." So the man got into the ship, and they flew on further. They flew, and look, a man was coming along, hopping on one leg, with the other leg tied tightly to his ear. "Good day, uncle. Why art thou hopping on one leg?" "Why, if I were to untie the other, I should stride around half the world in a single stride, so long are my steps." "Then take a seat in the ship beside me." So the man got into the ship, and they flew on further. They flew, and look, a man was standing with a gun and taking aim, but at what they could not see. "Good day, uncle. At what art thou aiming?" "Oh, I'm aiming at a mark the size of a pea at a distance of 100 leagues. That's what I call shooting." "Art thou traveling?" "Yeah." "Then take a seat in the ship beside me. I'll give thee a lift on thy journey." So the man sat down, and they flew on. They flew, and look, a man was walking in the forest, and on his shoulders was a bundle of wood. "Good day, uncle. Why art thou dragging wood about?" "Oh, this is not common wood." "Of what sort is it then?" "It is of such a sort that if it be scattered, a whole army will spring up." "Take a seat with us then. I'll give thee a lift on thy journey." So he also sat down with them, and they flew on further. They flew, and look, a man was carrying a sack of straw. "Good day, uncle. Whither art thou carrying that straw?" "To the village." "Is there little straw in the village then?" "Nay, but this straw is of such a kind that if it be scattered on the hottest summer day, cold will at once set in, with snow and frost." "Take a seat with us then. I'll give thee a lift on thy journey." So they flew, and soon they flew into the Tsar's courtyard. The Tsar was sitting at a table when he saw the flying ship drop from the sky just outside his window. In great surprise, he sent his servant to ask who it was that had accomplished the task. The servant went to the ship and looked, and brought back word to the Tsar that it was but a miserable little peasant who was flying the ship. The Tsar fell a-thinking. He did not wish to fulfill his promise by giving his daughter to a peasant, so he wondered how he could rid himself of such a son-in-law. "I will set him a task he can never perform," thought he. Immediately he called his servant, and bade him say to the fool, "Thou shalt get thy master, the Tsar, some of the living and singing water from the other end of the world, and mind that thou bringest here before the end of the meal, which he is even now eating. Shouldst thou fail to do this, thou shalt pay for it with thy life." Now, at the very time when the Tsar was giving this command to his servant, the first comrade who the fool had taken into the ship, that is to say, Sharp Ear, heard what the Tsar said and told it to the fool. "What shall I do now?" said the fool. "If I travel for my whole life, I shall never get to the other end of the world, let alone bringing the water here before the imperial meal is over." "Never fear," said Swift-of-Foot. "I'll manage it for thee." The servant came and made known the Tsar's commands. "Say I'll fetch it," replied the fool, and Swift-of-Foot untied his leg from his ear, ran off, and in a twinkling was at the other end of the earth. There he got the living and singing water. "I must make haste to return presently," said he, "but I've plenty of time for a nap first." And he sat down under a watermill and went to sleep. The Tsar's dinner was drawing to a close. He was eating dessert and was just putting his last sweetmeat to his lips. Still, Swift-of-Foot did not turn up, so it appeared that all hope was lost for the fool. But Sharp Ear bent down to the earth and listened. "Oh-ho!" he cried. "Swift-of-Foot has fallen asleep beneath the mill. I can hear him snoring." Then hit the mark, seized his gun, and fired a shot into the mill just above the sleeper's head. The noise awoke Swift-of-Foot, who took one giant stride, and there he was back of the ship with the water. The Tsar was just ready to rise from the table when the fool laid the water at his feet. At this the Tsar was astounded. He said he must think of some other way to get rid of the fool. So he sent his servant to him and bade him prepare for his wedding. "First go to the bathroom assigned thee and have a good wash," he ordered. Now this bathroom was made of cast iron, and the Tsar commanded that it should be heated hotter than hot. So they heated the bath, red hot. Then the fool went to wash himself, but when he drew near and felt the waves of heat that came forth from the door, he summoned the comrade with the straw. "I must strew the floor," said the comrade. So both were locked into the bathroom. The comrade scattered the straw. The room at once became icy cold, and the water in the bath froze, so the fool could scarcely wash himself properly. He crept up onto the stove, and there he passed the whole night. In the morning, servants opened the door of the bath, and they found the fool alive and well, lying on the stove and singing songs. They brought word thereof to the Tsar. The Tsar was now sore troubled. He did not know how to get rid of the fool. He thought, and at length he commanded the fool to produce a whole army of his own. How shall such a simple peasant be able to gather an army, thought he. He will surely fail this time. The servant came to the fool and said, If thou wilt have the Tsarevna, thou must, before morning, put a whole army on foot. As soon as the fool heard this, he said to his comrades, You have delivered me from my straits more than once, my friends, but it is plain that nothing can be done now. Thou art a pretty fellow, said the man with the bundle of wood. Hast thou forgotten what I can do with my wood? So the fool took courage again, and sent this word to the Tsar. I agree. I shall raise up the army our master the Tsar demands of me, but tell him that if he should again refuse to keep his word with me, I shall conquer his whole kingdom with the very army he bids me raise. At night the fool's companion went out into the fields, took his bundle of wood, and began scattering the faggots in different directions. Immediately a countless army sprang up, both horse and foot. In the morning the Tsar saw it, a multitude in arms, swarming over his whole countryside, and then at last he cried, I am forced to yield. Such an army as this could conquer my whole kingdom. So he sent in all haste to the fool with gifts of precious ornaments and raiment, and bade him come to be welcomed at court and married to the Tsarevna. The fool attired himself in these costly garments. Then he richly repaid the friends who had proven such good comrades, and off to the Tsar. The next day he wedded the Tsarevna and lived henceforth with her at court. It now appeared he was no fool at all, as men had thought him, but in truth a wise and clever young man. So the Tsar and the Tsarevna grew very fond of him, and it was soon his wisdom that was governing the kingdom.